drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to The Crazy Life, everybody. My name's Jen, and with me, as always, is Bryan and Henno. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey. So.
Say hey.
Exactly. Hey. 3 snaps in a Z formation. Yeah, little throwback there for folks. I don't know if you can remember that or not, but
Well, the hey goes all the way back to what, like what's happening or something, isn't it?
Yes.
yeah, that's hey. And
That's
then,
from when you and I were little children.
right.
So,
And
yeah.
the 3 snaps in the Z formation is from In Living Color.
Yep.
For those
Men on Film.
Men on Film.
Yep.
Love it. It's actually a really, really progressive show considering the timeline and where it was at.
True.
Very, very good show. So, folks, if you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Yes.
Well, that being said, silence.
She derailed herself right away.
As always, derailing myself on little tangents. That being said, how was your guys' week?
Well, how was your new work week?
My work week's actually been very good. Been struggling a little bit with anxiety, but, you know, that comes with the territory of being at a new place. But, you know, the constant feeling you have a, you know, kick me sign on your back. Just because I did have a kick me sign on my back. But, you know, no, I just, I kid. No, it's actually, it's really good. They are a lot more conservative in their dress code than I'm used to. So that's going to take a little getting used to. But if I can, you know, exhibit my creativity in other ways. So, but it's been really good. It's been really good, and kind of working through the new hire jitters and working through the anxieties that come with being a new person in a new atmosphere and stuff. So
Yeah. It's so hard because you're constantly on alert for how you relate to other people. How do I relate here? And then the little voice in your head's going, okay, all right, did I do that right? What are they thinking about me?
Yep. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. That was dumb.
Yeah. You're in full relationship management mode.
Yeah.
Exactly. Do I set the bar too high? Do I not set the bar high enough? You know, I've already been getting a lot of very positive feedback, and that's the first thing that pops in my head is, oh no, I'm setting myself up. It's like I'm never going to be able to keep up with this level of, you know, greatness that they think I'm doing right now. So
That's fine. They probably won't be able to keep up that level of complimenting either. So
very true.
If they hold to what most people hold to, you know, it'll tail off.
Yeah, pretty much everything's going to tail off.
Right.
Expectations will go higher. Everything else goes down lower.
Right. Yep.
So, but
like, what did you think this job was? Hams and slaps on the back?
well, yeah.
Probably
No,
not.
probably not. Yeah, so it's been definitely interesting. And then, you know, part of the uniform, I had to tone down my hair because my hair was too bright. So, which I do color my hair. So for those of you out there who didn't know that, but I do color my hair. And when I first got hired in, it was purple, and it is now kind of a muted reddish brown color.
It was like a dark purple, though. It
Yes.
wasn't like it wasn't like a vibrant purple.
True.
So,
It was a dark purple, but when the sun hit it, it got pretty
yeah,
bright.
yeah. I'm just trying to make sure that people, don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
it
yeah.
was like,
Sheen of the punk rocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. It was more business purple, if there's such a thing.
That is awesome.
All right, business purple goes right up there with positive narcissist, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Terminologies, yeah. Business.
Make a great episode title.
I was
Business
just going to
Purple.
say that, yeah. If I named this show the way we do Salty Language, this show would be Business Purple, for sure.
It was a businessy purple,
Yeah.
but no stripes or polka dots. And, I think my red high heels are probably about the farthest I'm going to be able to push the dress code. So,
Nice.
but that's okay. That's good. I like the fact that they're very uniform, so that it takes a lot of pressure off and
It's true.
in other ways.
Yeah, it's true. I was thinking that today too, because I have work shirts and sweaters, and everything's got the logo on it, the hat and all that stuff, and because we have the health club on the property, there's a lot of people walking around, and every once in a while I'll be, like today she was actually an employee, but I was heading towards this far end of the property, and I'm walking behind this woman, and I noticed her look back at me a couple of times, and so I'm like, all right, I'm just catching up, because I'm walking fast, and I finally catch up to her, and I was like, hello, I'll be your stalker for today.
Yeah.
I just made a joke about it. But it was okay because I got freaking Thunder Spring all over me.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not like it's a mystery. It's like, yeah, I work here. It's pretty obvious, but it's like that makes life easier. It's just certain things like that. It takes where people go, I don't want to conform. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes conforming is.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. Otherwise, I could see where somebody might be creeped out if some guy just happens to be 2 steps behind them as they walk. And, it'd be one of those where she's going from like point A to point B and you're going from past that point even, you know what I mean? Like but you just happen to be going the same way. And she thinks you're following her the whole time. Meanwhile, you're going past her to something else or whatever. Or, it'd be so simple for that to happen and a guest to be very uncomfortable.
Exactly.
She was funny too. She's like, yeah, I just started watching Dexter on TV a little bit, so you kind of rattled me.
They're like, oh, you probably shouldn't come back to my workroom then.
Which I actually just at the end of season 1 of Dexter, because I just started watching Dexter myself.
Really?
Yes.
Oh boy, you've got a nice ride in store and a lot of John Lithgow's ass.
Really?
Sorry, spoilers.
Interesting. No, I'm at the end of season 1, and I'm waiting to find out what happens to the sister. So
what's really cool about about that though is, like, I'm looking back at that going, as much as I enjoyed that show and stuff, it's like I can't go back and enjoy that show. You know what I mean? Like, I've already gone through that, and it's like you're getting to find that now. Yeah. You're getting to experience that, and you're it's almost like I'm a little jealous that now you get to go through that. It's like I was watching a Hannibal Buress stand-up last night, and he was talking about how his dad just found The Wire. And he's like, I was going to make fun of him, but he's like, why would you do that? It's like, we find things at different times, and he has a joke that follows it that's something like, he's like, I only found out who Jimi Hendrix is because Hulk Hogan came out to his music, and I was like, yeah, a lot of people did that because Hogan came out to Voodoo Child in NWO, or in WCW, I'm sorry. And there were a lot of people that, like, when I would sit with my friends watching wrestling and they'd be like, this entrance song's awesome. And I'm looking around like, what? Like, you don't know this is Jimi Hendrix? Because I knew what the song was. And I was like, all right, it's time for some educations here. And, but it's kind of cool when people stumble into that. It's like, instead of making fun of people when they find this stuff, just be like, oh, that's awesome. You get to experience that.
Exactly.
Now, a guy I work with, they were making comments about Chicago. Now, I'm not saying Chicago's the same as Jimi Hendrix, but I'm saying the situation is.
Oh, the band, okay. I didn't know what to what extent you meant Chicago.
They were making comments about Chicago lyrics.
Okay. My first concert, right?
And the one guy who's younger, he's like, Chicago like the musical? Or And I just started laughing. I'm like, dude, I said, you know Chicago. And he's like, no.
Depends on how old he is. He may not.
Well, and that's, I'm like,
Yeah.
you may not know Chicago, but
Yeah.
you know Chicago.
Yeah, you've probably heard something in a
Right.
movie or something. Because
I'm
they
like,
have like 40,000 songs that were fairly popular.
Exactly. I'm like, I can't help you with anything at this moment for you to listen to.
Yeah.
I'm like, but Google it. Just listen to anything that comes up in any sort of hits of Chicago,
Yeah.
and you'll know Chicago.
Like we were watching, what was that? I think it was The Voice the other night, and there was a girl on there that's 15, and she was like, "Yeah, my dad taught me a whole bunch of old, a bunch of old songs," and I had to look up at the screen because I wanted to see how old the dad was, because the first thought I had is, her dad might be my age,
Right?
because Tony, my best friend, is a year younger than me and has a 15-year-old son.
Shocking.
And now her dad was older than that. I'm guessing her dad's in his 40s or maybe 50, somewhere in that range.
Right.
But still, it was like, you hear a 15-year-old kid say that, oh, these old songs, and it's like, yeah, those old songs, that kid could be talking about Guns N' Roses, honestly.
Right.
I mean, you don't know what they're talking about until I hear, like she sang a Carole King song. I mean, that's an old song. That's not like,
which she did an amazing job with.
That's an old song to me. That's not just an old song to her. That's an old song to me too. So yeah, I was just, like I said, it's funny how I'm getting to that point now, though. I have to look at the screen to see how old the parent is,
But yeah, so it's definitely been an interesting learning and adjustment period. The first week was mostly training, and now I'm live on the floor, which has really been a great experience.
Nice.
I will say my win for the week, though, is focusing and being aware of my confidence levels. So as my confidence starts going down, I'm giving myself the pep talks. I'm doing whatever I can to keep my confidence high, because it's be so easy for me to fall back into bad habits, in the bad spirals of, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done this. Oh my God, what am I thinking? I mean, it'd be so easy just to let my head just steamroll me and destroy whatever confidence I do have. So I've been that was my win for the week, is that I've been really focusing hard on making sure that I'm okay with whatever happens. I'm okay with it. You don't like it, that's fine. I'm okay with it, type of a stuff.
Yeah.
Without being cocky, but you know what I'm saying.
It's not being cocky, though, because it's really the truth. If you're okay with it, however someone else deals with it, that's for them to deal with it.
Yes.
I mean, that really is the core of what, again, the, like the distorted thinking worksheets and stuff, that's what they're trying to get people to think of, is, and the cognitive behavior stuff. It's like, you can only control you. You can't control anybody else. So you just do, you control you, and you worry about you, and everything else falls where it does. So that should be a win, because that's a significant step.
Thank you. Now, since I broke the ice and I went first, who's next?
You got anything?
Yeah. I actually, Jen, I already told Jen this a little earlier, but I'll go over it again because I think it's a really interesting point. I was listening to a podcast called Wrestling with Depression, and it's by a comedian named Marty DeRosa. And he has comedians or pro wrestlers or whatever on there with him, and they talk about mental illness and or whatever. And one of the guys he had on there, this comedian he had on there, talked about how he has agoraphobia. And I was like, and like most people, I just immediately went to the, fear of leaving the house or fear of going outside. And the guy goes, no, it's way more than that. He's like, that's like the most common thing of it. He's like, but there's also other symptoms to this. Now, again, I want to preface this with the saying, I'm not self-diagnosing. This is not a diagnosis. Don't use this as a diagnosis. I'm just, pointing all this out. He pointed out how you basically, it kind of starts with like, like you get somewhere, like kind of like a claustrophobic feeling type of a thing. But when you go places that you always look for your out, you always are looking to the exits to make sure you have an out. If the place is busy, you look for an out, basically. You don't go anywhere without having an out. You don't travel that far away from your home, because basically what starts out is you're able to go far away from your home, but what happens is over time, you're able to go less distance and less distance and less distance to where eventually it becomes, okay, I'm home, I'm safe. Now it's, okay, as long as I'm within the hallway and this area, I'm safe. Then it becomes, as long as I'm in my room, I'm safe. As long as I'm under my covers, I'm safe. And basically what happens is your world basically shrinks down. Your safe zone. And as he's going through this, my mind is getting blown because for years now, I've avoided going to things because they're too far from home. I've gone out and done things, and as soon as they're done, all I want to do is get back into my room. That's my zone. That's my safe place. And I've realized that, and I'm going to talk to my therapist about this because I'm curious, and it doesn't necessarily mean I have this, but it's something I want to talk about because I'm curious,
Mm-hmm.
But it blew my mind because it's something I never would have considered. How uncomfortable, how uncomfortable I am when I'm not at home or not in my safe zone. And how I know, and I'm very aware of how it's affected my life, but I've just never really thought of it in the terms of that concept. I've always just looked at it more as an anxiety, just social anxiety. I don't want to be that far from home because that generally means you're at a party or whatever, or if things go sideways, I got to find a ride home because I don't drive. I've always equated it more to not driving.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if, essentially the not driving has been my excuse or my pass for it. I've overlooked maybe a deeper issue because of not driving. Mm. So that's what it's kind of I don't know if I'd call it a win, but it was certainly really kind of an eye-opening experience to me. Because it was an edge of anxiety that I never would have thought to mention to my therapist. But I certainly am going to now.
Mm-hmm.
That
is a really, really good idea. It's very, insightful when you can hear things like that and take that and incorporate it into your thoughts. But yet, like you mentioned very early on, is don't self-diagnose,
right.
But bring this to your doctors and bring this to your practitioners to help you.
Right, because it could just be that they happen to run parallel. My problem in this could just run parallel. Mm-hmm. But it is close enough that I certainly want to make sure that it's not, because maybe there's a better or a treatment or something, anyway, but
mm-hmm.
I'll get into that. But yeah, also I wanted to throw out that if you don't, that's a good podcast to listen to if people don't listen to it. It's called Wrestling with Depression. It's up just about every week he puts one up, but honestly, he has some down weeks and he does sometimes, he has bad depression days sometimes and doesn't get to put a show up. Mm. And he's really honest about it, which is one of the things I love about his show. Is he doesn't make excuses. He'll come on and be like, hey guys, had a really bad week last week. Sorry, I got to show up late, Yeah. And, and the other thing I love, I told Jen this, at the very end of the show, he has this really light kind of uplifting music. So every episode, when you're leaving the episode, mm-hmm. you just can't help it, but you have kind of just a nice feeling. It's almost like, when you go to the dentist office, if you get the gas, and you can't really feel anything, how you just feel good, you don't really feel it. It's kind of like giving you the audio, the audio version of that, I think. So there's another point that was made on that episode that kind of goes into what we were going to talk about. I didn't think about this, or I would have went second. But this same guy talked about how he got put on he was on one antidepressant, and he said he couldn't, he's like, I went on this and then I couldn't stop smiling, And, Marty DeRosa's like, oh, that's great, basically. And the guy goes, no, you misunderstand. He's like, I physically couldn't quit smiling.
Wow.
Yeah. And, basically he's like, I was on the inside still having horrible thoughts, but physically I felt like smiling all the time. He's like, so, that's no good. And I was like, oh God, that sounds horrible. It sounds like being trapped in a prison. And so then he went on another one that basically, I'm trying to think. What did I tell you the second one? Do you remember?
It enhanced all negative thoughts.
Yeah, that's what it was. It just really enhanced his bad thoughts. And he was like, yeah, this one's no good too. And then I think he went into a third one, and that, he said it increased his negative thoughts, his thoughts of suicide and such, but it also gave him the clarity to where he could step away from them and say, no, that's the depression.
Oh.
And he's like, that's what I was looking for. That ability to where now I could separate the two. And he's like, the other two drugs didn't give me that. And, that's very important line.
Yes, it is.
I think that's the real deal in any sort of recovery is not so much as having it go away, but having finally clarity when you're in a healthy space. Well, there's a terminology we use in 12-step groups. It's called when you're on the beam or off the beam. And when you're on the beam, your life has these, and then there's a list of qualities. When you're off the beam, you have these qualities, and that clarity to go, okay, wow, I know when I'm on and when I'm off. That's the fundamental to me of the path of recovery right there.
Yeah.
So you finally can see that difference.
Yeah. And
that's huge.
Yeah. That's why as soon as that guy said that, I was like, yeah, cause, well, actually, you know what? Here, let's stop. Let's do this real quick. Why don't you tell us about your week, and then we'll get more into this. So.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I've had little things happen this weekend, but I've been trying to. When people ask me how I'm doing, I tend to be, honest about it, and especially when it's my friends, and my friends ask, hey, what have you been up to, and I can talk to them about little things that I would never say to an acquaintance. But my friends know me, and so they know what's important to me. And I was just thinking that, I haven't been in my head this week, at all.
That's good.
That's awesome.
I know. And now that I'm thinking about it, I actually haven't been in my head, no self-criticism, no doubt, it's actually been weeks now.
Wow. Wonderful.
And I'm just realizing it right now. Cause I've been talking about what I have been doing, and I haven't been realizing what I haven't been doing. And what I haven't been doing is a lot of that self-sabotage stuff, and that beat myself up, cause I was just saying, okay, how's my work? Oh, my work week's been great. I mean, I've really been just getting at it and not worrying about what other people are thinking, just doing my own thing, and it's I felt confident.
That's wonderful.
But more important than that is what I haven't felt. I haven't had those negative thoughts where I'm literally playing out scenarios and things in my head and basically, future casting and beating myself up over stuff. And it's weird how just sitting here now, and all of a sudden click oh, that's why things have been good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Not what I have been doing as much as what I haven't been doing.
Makes a big difference.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy I just had that awareness.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you point out what changed or what's helping you?
I think it's the stuff I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is these ideas of setting myself up for a win. Not setting myself up to start my day right, to get through my day right, and to end my day right in a way that allows me to have a better chance of tomorrow. To be able to do it again tomorrow. And I don't know I don't know if this is sustainable right now. I hope it is.
Mm-hmm.
Inevitably, something's going to happen, some life thing, and that's what tends to screw these things up. Life likes you.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But for now, I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Heck
right.
yeah, that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you've had such a great week and been doing so well.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's weird to because I'm generally I've always been a half glass full kind of guy, but a lot of times I'm just wearing it on the outside, because I've got my own little dark corner. But I really have been like, when I say life's good right now, it's pretty honest.
Good.
That's wonderful.
And yeah, so like as always, I love being on here and sharing my week with you guys and everyone that's listening, because I always get something out of it.
Yeah. It's, there's a lot to be said for looking back. As Bryan and I were talking about today, hindsight is still sight. Yeah. So, it's still good. Granted, it's not as good as foresight sometimes, but hindsight's still sight. It still works. So, the fact
what's cool about it is it's 2020.
Yeah. Exactly. It's, it's perfect. So you can go back and by looking at your weeks and analyzing things to a short extent, you don't spend too much time on it, but look back on your week and see how it goes. It really can make a difference. It can really help you come to these aha moments that I think that we keep finding, all three of us keep finding as we go along, and as we, take a step back and just take a look back and just say, what has happened this week?
Well, even and maybe more so when you have a week or a couple weeks like you're saying, you don't want to overanalyze, because, then you can end up kind of ruining, what you got going by getting back in your head. But at the same time, it's like, make sure it's like, have I been doing things that I can repeat? Because if so, then repeat them, by all means,
That's it.
Yeah.
And looking back on your week doesn't have to be about rehashing things and how you can do them better. It can be like, Bryan, you just said, it can be just about what did I do right and how can I repeat that?
Yeah.
That's a great win.
Listen, it's the, if it ain't broke scenario, really, like sometimes, like I've been watching, I've in the last week, I probably watched various things on Netflix or whatever else. And I have heard 3 different times the phrase or something similar to how humans are too intelligent for our own good, because we we apply too much logic many times when we don't need to, and it's this situation, it's like, look, if you're happy and things are going well, if you can see things that you did and you can repeat them, then do that. If you have no idea, I would just say keep going and just, ride the wave, But I guess as long as it's not maybe like a manic thing or something, then maybe you have separate issues, but it's just, otherwise it's like, don't get in your own head if you don't need to be there, really. It's like, stay out.
Exactly.
KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
that's right.
I have to remind myself of that.
That's right.
It's like I can be too smart for my own good sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just that overthinking and overanalyzing. And I was meeting with my sponsor yesterday, and I was mentioning some things about not beating myself up over some stuff in the past, and he always says it. He's like, well, you got to give up hope for a better yesterday.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Yesterday ain't gonna get any better.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
you just got to give that one up.
Yep, that's it.
What is it? The Buddhist saying is something like, "There's only 2 days that can ruin your life: yesterday and tomorrow," or something like that. And it's the same kind of a thing. It's like it's
that
just
idea. Yeah,
it's just it just, you're right. You just, like I said, it's like I've said constantly on here. It's it's the ability to be in the moment and be happy in the moment. That is what I've searched for. That's what I've tailored my thought process to, rather than the whole, I have to be happy or I have to be this. It's like, I want to be happy now. Like, if I'm not happy a minute from now or 5 minutes from now, that's fine. But I'd like to find ways to be in this moment or find moments. And that's where, you know, because when you start finding moments, you realize that moments start becoming, you know, 5 minutes becomes an hour, becomes a day, becomes, you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the thing, is you start building, and that's what's important. And it you know, it just reminds me, you know, like when I was in school for graphic design, you know, you when you go back to learning about design, you have to learn, you know, about a dot or a line, you know, and it all starts with that. You know, you can make an argument either way. That's one of the things we have to sit and argue in the stupid classes. But like, it's chicken or the egg, which comes first, a dot or a line? Because technically, you know, a dot is a short line. But anyway, enough of that. But it's
right.
But you know, like, you know, so you got to start somewhere. So that's why, like I said, you know, if you can just find some contentment now and stay out of your own head, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Heck yeah.
Because I've been the opposite. I told Jen earlier tonight, I've been, and I think it's the medicine that I'm on, is I've been not only in my head more, but I'm like laser focused on stuff in my head, and not in a good way. You know, like the negative thoughts are like amplified, and it seems like that's all I can keep my head on. And whenever I try to use things that I've used in the past, like video games or TV shows or something, or comic books, whatever, as a distraction, I find that I'm getting distracted while doing those things, thinking about the other things. And, you know, that makes for a really hard situation, you know. And so I think, and that's kind of what we're talking about for the show tonight a little bit, is, you know, when medicines don't really work for you, or when you don't think they're working for you.
I think the bigger picture is, how do you become an advocate for your own health?
Yeah.
So often, as we're going down these paths of self-help and mental illness or addiction, we're seeking help. When do we reach that point where we can filter the help? You know, it's difficult, because when you're asking for help and someone's offering you help, it's easy just to accept that and accept the help that they're giving and say, okay, I need help. They're helping me. How awesome. Let's move forward. And sometimes that help that they're offering you, no matter how good intentioned, may not be the help that you need. You know, I think some medicines are perfect examples, because it is not an exact science when you're working with mental illness. Any doctor will tell you that. So there are a variety of different medicines on the market that can be used for the similar, if not the exact, symptoms. So finding the right medicine for the right person can get very tricky. And as you're experiencing, Bryan, you know, one of the well-known side effects, and I shouldn't say you're experiencing because I don't know, but some of the well-known side effects of medicine, the antidepressants and things like that, can amp up negative thoughts and negative depressive things.
Yeah, they can increase your thoughts of suicide and just negative thoughts in general. And I definitely have. And, you know, there, like the guy I was talking about, I can't remember his name. I really got to stop doing that. I got to start looking this stuff up. But like he was talking about, he's okay with that. You know, like he's okay with that as long as the medicine also gives him the clarity to recognize those thoughts and say, no, that's depression. You know, and then he can kind of, you know, like he even said, he's like, I'm a big boy. I know what those feelings are. I'll push those aside. As long as you have that
Garner
perspective, as long as you can see things that way, he'll do fine, you know. And the problem is, like with me, I'm not getting that perspective. All that's going on in my head is just, you know, just negative. It's just a cloud that just keeps growing and growing, and there's only so much space, you know. And at some point, it's I've had days where I'm just going nuts off of this. And the problem is, I don't know if it's the medicine 100% or if it's me. Because it could be either or both.
And the next step that you're going to take is?
The next step is that I'm going to call my psychiatrist and talk with him and see what he thinks. Because, that's what he's there for.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure. And that's, one of the first things you can do is if you're a person going through this, first of all, two things. One is a lot of times, people have to go through multiple medicines to find one that works for them, if they have depression. And also, same with therapists. A lot of people have to go through multiple therapists to find the one that fits them. Some people need a therapist that gives them a good kick in the butt. Some need a softer, more understanding type, so you may have to dance around a little bit to find the therapist that's right for you. So don't necessarily get married to one, because usually even with insurances and stuff, there's usually options,
Yeah. And that's definitely kind of where I was going from the beginning, is the fact that just because you seek help, they give you a medicine, you take the medicine, it's all going to get better. Not necessarily.
No, and I'm proof of that.
Yeah.
Because I was on Effexor,
Mm-hmm.
and Effexor, when I first went on it, Effexor definitely improved my mood.
Mm-hmm.
You were there for that. I was definitely in a better mood. I didn't seem to have the negative thoughts as much, but I was in just a funk.
Mm-hmm.
And after being on it for 2 years, almost 3 years, everything was just gray. Like the world was just gray to me, and it sucked. It just sucked.
Yeah.
Like I was starting to just get into this meh mood about everything. And I talked to the doctor at one point, and she's like, well, we could up the dosage. And I was like, I don't think that's going to help when all this did was make me feel meh. This didn't make me feel good. It just made me feel meh, and, and then, after being off of it and now on something else, I can see the difference in those two now, because this one does not make me feel meh.
Which is good.
I'll say that. There's no fogginess with this one. But unfortunately, it skipped the gray and went right to black.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it turned the dial on the black way up. And so I don't think this is the right one for me either, which is a shame because it was also partially given to me to help me sleep.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. So that's, but I got to talk to 2 doctors basically and get them to agree.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But when is this happening?
I'm calling tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, I'm planning on calling tomorrow, which means I'll probably call September.
No. I just want to make sure that people understand that this is not something that you are taking lightly, and that
it's not. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest though. I'm terrible about calling for stuff because it, again, nature of the beast. I made phone calls today that I've been putting off for a week and a half.
Yeah.
One of which was just calling my doctor's office because I need refills on medicine. And this goes back to me and Hennel, for the last 2 weeks, we've talked about putting off stuff that takes 5 minutes. I'm not kidding you. I've put it off a week and a half, 3 phone calls. I sat here in this chair today for 10 minutes, all 3 of those phone calls.
Right.
That's how long it took. I put them off a week and a half. That's how awful this mental illness can be. Because I just kept putting it off. It's stupid. It's so stupid. I know it's stupid, but I can't stop it.
I understand. Yeah. I do. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate.
Yeah.
Now, Hanno, in your path of recovery, have you ever come across things that just weren't quite right for you?
I've really been fortunate in, like when I found my therapist, I honestly have to say there was just miracles happening.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I found the perfect therapist, and it was, it was done it was a random, somebody picked it out of the phone book for me and ended up being an addiction and family counseling specialist. I mean, it was, and she'd worked at a rehab hospital that we used to have in this area and knew people that I knew. I mean, I just got lucky there. And then same thing, with finding mentors and, that kind of thing. I've just been really fortunate. Where I can relate to this is more actually with, physical stuff where, it's so easy to start taking this stuff personally. And like I had to remind myself that, the doctor's looking at a set of symptoms that I'm telling the doctor. Yes, there are certain things that they can measure. There are certain things that they might be able to, pick up and read. But the reality is I'm explaining how I'm feeling to somebody, and that person is taking a wealth of experience in their brain. It's not being entered into a computer. It's like going through their head, and they're saying, and they're processing it, and then they're spitting out something. Yeah. And it's based on their experience, their education, what they know, maybe, what some, latest things that they've, especially when it comes to medicines. It's like, they've got the pharma companies coming up to them and saying, here, hand this out.
Right.
And so they take all that stuff and they're doing the best they can, but there is a limit. And, I experienced it finally with my full-time physician, where I was not getting the relief that I needed. And it wasn't to say that what they wanted me to do wasn't right, but I was tired of being in pain, and I was tired of struggling and fighting. And I decided to take things into my own hands, and it was interesting. My doctor, my actual, primary care physician, didn't want to hear anything about it, had nothing good to say. Luckily, I had a physical therapist who was more than, like, hey, I need to go try something different. Yeah. And she was, please do. And if it doesn't work, you can always come back here. And ever since then, I will always be open-minded, but I have also realized that, our traditional avenues of where we get help, aren't always the perfect thing for every situation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's not personal. It's like my doctor wasn't doing anything to hurt me personally. He was just going by some facts that he knows, and he's going to try this, and he's going to try that, and he's going to try this, and we'll work through it. And unfortunately for me, it just wasn't giving me any relief. Yeah. So I needed to kind of take control of it myself. And it ended up being actually really good because I was in line for a specialist. I had that specialist lined up, but it was, how it's like to get an appointment with one of those, those people. You can be a month, 6 weeks out.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was that far out. And in the meantime, I'm like, I can't just be sitting here. I need to do something. And I went and, I went and tried something new, and it turned out that it worked. And that has now become one of my avenues for self-care because I know it works. And that's not to say I've completely, I still will go the other, I will still go see my primary care physician for things. It's not an issue. I know it's not personal. He's going by his training,
Yeah.
And it is a medical opinion based on facts, but it is still their opinion. A diagnosis is just an opinion. And unless they have the specific tests, which in some cases they do, like you said, there's tests and stuff and studies done that can prove it is this specific thing. But more often than they're not, they're taking educated guesses at how to help us. And it's so important that you, like you said, don't take it personally. They don't mean they want to help you. They have all of the best intentions in the world. But you do have to be your own advocate and understand that regardless of how good their intentions are, you still are the one in control.
Yeah.
So if something is not working for you, whether it's medicine, whether it's any form of treatment, whether it's their bedside manner, if it's not working for you, take control and say, this is not right for me, and seek other avenues. Just because you seek one avenue for help and it doesn't quite work out the way you wanted it to, doesn't mean you give up.
Right.
It just means you have to seek other forms of help and other avenues.
And that's also really important to remember if you're dealing, like, you know, going back to like antidepressants or whatever, is don't try one and then say, oh, antidepressants don't work.
Exactly.
Because
all medicines don't work.
They don't work. They each different one does a little different than the other one, or groups of them do things a little differently than the other. So you may have to jump through 3 or 4, and it sucks because you have to ride those horrible first week or two, and then when you're taken off of them, you have to ride out that last week or what, and it sucks. Those, you know. Even though they wean you off of them, your body essentially, you're messing with your brain's makeup. So it's, it stinks going on those rides, but you just hope in the end that you find something, and like you said, and Heno said, a lot of times these doctors, they're going off of what you tell them.
That's it.
So make sure,
Your
first of all,
feedback.
make sure you're telling them the truth.
Yeah. Oh, and especially and I hear about this more often than anybody else in recovery is, alcoholics are great with this stuff. They go into the doctor wanting the doctor to fix all of their symptoms, but they leave out the one thing, which is I drink a freaking bottle of whiskey every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not honest about it. And usually doctors start to figure it out after a while.
Yeah.
They start to go, okay, we've looked at everything, and is there something you're not telling me?
Right.
And that is the thing that it's like, you're not helping yourself by holding this back, because they are going exclusively off of your feedback.
Right. It's one of those things that, there's this, like, you should just be upfront with your doctor because it helps them do their job better. The more upfront, if you don't want to divulge everything, that's one thing, but it's like, at least answer their questions truthfully, and especially when pertaining to whatever it is you're seeing them for, like when they ask you how the medicine is doing, if you're on a medicine, tell them, and if there's things you don't like, make sure you tell them, read the medicine list, see what the common side effects are. If they bother you, like the one I'm on, I've said it before, it gives me horrible heartburn. I'm still getting heartburn. And I'm not sure I want to stay on this because the heartburn's been so bad. It's like, I'm not sure I want a life of this, kind of a thing. It's like, maybe it's worth exploring other avenues to deal with my migraines that don't give me horrible heartburn, and that kind of a thing. Like, that's for me to sit down and talk with him. Hey, is there something else we can try? And, if he says, well, this is probably the best bet, but we can do, then we'll find out. But, I'm not looking forward to switching antidepressants, but I haven't been on this one very long, but I've been on this one long enough now that I can tell, I think, what it's doing. And the more I think about it and talk about it, it just doesn't seem like it's the right one for me either, So, but I need to go into the doctor or call them and tell them why, so that he can go, okay, we have to watch out for these things, and that may help him pick the next medicine we go to,
And it's so important that when you talk to the nurse and they ask you why you're going, if it's something that's really urgent, you need to make sure that is understood, and do whatever you need to do to make that appointment and bring it in. Like, if you're having really, really dark thoughts and you're really, really struggling, make sure you tell that nurse, no, I'm having these dark thoughts. This is not a good place that I'm at. I have to get in to see this doctor right away, or I have to speak to the doctor at least right away, because something is not right. And make sure that you are your own advocate and you fight for what you need. And if it push comes to shove, as we've mentioned multiple times on this podcast, and we will keep on mentioning it because it's so important, is if you are in such a dark spot that you can't see your way out of it, call for help. Make sure you call 911, call those emergency numbers. It is an emergency. You don't have to be bleeding out to be in an emergency situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it doesn't have to be a gunshot wound.
Yeah.
It can be you're just so far deep in your own head that you can't see your way out.
And that's why I mentioned generally at the end of the show, like, you know, literally, if you walk into the emergency room and you tell them I'm having a mental health emergency, they will ask, you know, what do you mean? And if you say I'm thinking of harming myself, they will process that. You know, like they won't just laugh you out of there or you know, they will go, oh, and they will treat you as such and they'll admit you and, you know.
You can get taken care of.
Yeah.
You know, people want to help you and want to care for you, and you have to reach out and let them do so.
Which is extremely difficult. And
Absolutely.
it's really hard because, you know, a lot of the people with mental health, it's hard to even ask for help. And a lot of times I think that they fall into just accepting what's dealt to them.
Sure.
You know, like you get a medicine and it's like, well, I feel a little better. And you don't realize, like, no, little better is not good enough. Like, you know, don't get me wrong, a little better is a little better, but a little better isn't, it's not enough. Like, if that medicine's not making you feel markedly better, why are you on it?
Exactly.
Because these medicines they're rough on your body. They change your brain. Like, you can look that up. There's, you know, like, they change your brain over time. So, you know, if it's barely doing anything, why would you be on it? Just like any drug. Why, if it's barely doing anything for you, why would you take it? You know, you have chronic pain, but Tylenol barely touches it. Why would you take Tylenol, right? So same idea. Why would you do that? Like, you know, try to find something that works to make your life better so that you can, you know, go back to go become who you want to be and you know, live. But like you said, you know, it's like you have to fight for you. Or, you know what? If you're in a position where you don't think you can do the fighting for you, you know, give a loved one power of attorney and let them fight for you if you have to. You know, I mean, if it's that kind of situation, or, you know, whatever, if you just can't fight for yourself, you know, find somebody who will fight for you and let them fight for you, you know, find an advocate if you have to, you know, just.
Yeah. The legal term.
Yeah.
The legal advocate versus.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I mean. You know, sign over to where they can, you know, make appointments for you and hold things and, you know, such.
Yep. And the power of attorney and a legal advocate does not have to be a long-term deal either. It can be a shorter term deal if need be. So, but definitely look those things up and utilize the tools at your fingertips. The internet is a fabulous but scary place. Yeah.
Just, you know, if you go to basically the sum up is like, you know, if you go to the doctor and you don't get the answer you want, and, you know, within reason here, obviously, you know, you know, if your medicines aren't doing what you want them to do, or what they're supposed to do, I should say, then, you know, talk to the doctor. If the doctor's kind of like, maybe change doctors, you know, if the doctor doesn't seem interested, move to a different doctor. You know, they should be as willing to work with you as, you know, as possible, because that's their job. If they're not willing to really meet you anywhere there, you know, maybe it's time to move to another one, you know. And I know insurance can make this really difficult for a lot of people. Yeah. Sometimes you're kind of pigeonholed, but, you know, whatever. But again, just, you know, always fight for yourself. It doesn't even have to be at the doctor. Just, you know,
always defend yourself and be an advocate for yourself, because you ultimately are the person that needs to be the strongest for you.
Yep.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's why I said it's very difficult. You know, there's
absolutely this is not an easy thing for anyone to go through or talk about. Yeah,
there's a lot of times like going through this lately that honestly, I wish at times that I had somebody that I could just sign it over to and be
Yeah.
like, here, just,
Yeah.
I just tell me when to show up for something and I'll try,
Yeah.
just because it would just make things to where I wouldn't have to stress over them. But, I'm just keep pushing because I just think I have to. It's one of those things for my sake, I think I have to keep pushing myself to do these things.
Absolutely.
And for some people they can't, and that's different, So it's just, assess your own situation and,
Absolutely. Well, I think we're coming to a pretty good natural conclusion. Are we good, guys?
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
Good? All right. Well, with that being said, if you want to continue the conversation with me, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. Gen, Crazy Life. And you can reach the podcast at the Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com. The website, the Crazy Life Podcast at the Crazy Life Podcast.weebly.com. And you, Heno, how can they reach you?
You can catch me on Twitter at Ida Heno. And you can always find me at Facebook. Just look for Heno Heiter.
Nice. And you, Bryan?
You can also find the show on Twitter for to see when we put up new episodes at the Crazy Life Pod. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast, which is Salty Language, at salty_language, or at saltylanguage.com. And you can also, nope, I was going to say something else there. I don't know what it was, so I stopped. I don't remember now. Oh, you can also find us as part of the Tangent Bound Network and the Wicked Radio Network. That's what I was going to say. I was like,
we're wicked awesome.
I was going to say something else there. So check those out. Both fine networks full of good time podcasts for your listening pleasure. Also, as we've said kind of throughout this podcast, actually, and we always say here, we're not doctors, trained professionals, physicians, therapists, any of that kind of thing. So if you heard something in here and you're like, oh, hey, whatever, it's like, don't take that as a diagnosis. Don't self-diagnose. Like me, I heard on something else. I heard something was like, hey, that sounds like me. Go to your doctor, talk it out with them and let them make the diagnosis. So if you need help, please seek professional help and, get a good course of action there. Also, if you are having, dark thoughts, then obviously, we don't want you to do anything drastic or bad here. So please call someone. Don't be alone. Call the suicide hotline number. There's support groups online. There's all sorts of support groups all over the place. If you just look, they're seriously all over. Your therapist can probably point you toward one if you need one, or your doctor's office, the mental health board in your area. So please reach out to someone, or again, dial 911, tell them you're having a mental health emergency, or if you have someone in your support system that you could call that would take you in, to a hospital or whatever, do that. But just, again, please try not to be alone during those times, because that's the worst thing you could do at that point, is be alone or do something drastic.
Absolutely. And with that, all right, everybody, one breath at a time. Keep breathing, and we'll be back here next week.